What if the child presented to the world as the royal heir was never Meghan Markle's to begin with? That was the question that froze an entire television studio into silence. Veteran investigative journalist Tom Bauer didn't blink. He didn't smirk. He didn't stutter. He just leaned into the microphone and said what he claimed the palace has known all along. Archie is not Meghan's biological child. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And with that, everything, the crown, the family, the storybook image of the Sussexes, began to unravel. But how did we get here? Let's take you back, not just to the beginning of Archie's story, but to the series of strange whispers, cover-ups, and suspicious silences that have surrounded this child's identity from the very moment of his so-called birth. Because this isn't just a scandal. It's a time bomb that's been ticking behind palace walls. And now, it has exploded live on air. The fallout? Unimaginable. But what's even more chilling is the possibility that this was all carefully orchestrated, not by accident, but by design. So buckle up, because over the next hour, we're pulling back the curtain on the most shocking royal revelation since Diana's tragic death. A story about secrets, deception, and a child whose very identity may have been fabricated to protect a bigger lie. You'll hear from palace insiders, legal experts, and even former staff members who claim they were paid to keep quiet. We'll show you videos that were quietly removed from public record, photographs that never made it to the press, and a mysterious woman whose name was never supposed to be spoken. But by the end of this video, you won't be able to unsee what you've seen. Let's begin. A royal baby, or a royal illusion. It was May 6, 2019. The world was waiting. British tabloids were foaming at the mouth. Royal fans around the globe had already decorated cupcakes and Union Jack-themed bibs in honor of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's firstborn. But as the media rolled live coverage, something felt off. Unlike previous royal births, there were no photos outside the hospital. No crowd-lined steps of the Lindo wing. No smiling new parents holding their swaddled child for the public to see. Instead, the announcement came from Buckingham Palace, via press release. Just a flat piece of paper stapled to a wooden easel. And even that had strange wording. Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex was safely delivered of a son at 5:26 hours. Delivered of a son. Not gave birth. Not welcomed their child into the world. Just delivered. Then came the detail that ignited 1,000 theories. Meghan hadn't given birth at the famous Lindo wing. She hadn't even given birth in any hospital the press could access. The supposed location? A private, unnamed hospital. For security reasons, they said. But even the timing was strange. The palace announced the baby's arrival at 2 p.m., but admitted later that Meghan had given birth around 5 a.m. So why the 7-hour delay? Why the secrecy? And more importantly, what were they hiding? Tom Bauer, the man who dares to name names. To understand how this became one of the most controversial bombshells in royal history, we need to talk about Tom Bauer. Notorious, relentless, feared. He's not your average journalist. He's a trained barrister who turned his legal mind toward investigative biographies and never looked back. He's taken down billionaires, dismantled media tycoons, and exposed corruption from inside the British establishment. When Tom Bauer writes something, it's because he's already triple-checked it with evidence that would make a court quiver. So when he went live, not in a tabloid, not on a gossip blog, but on a respected international news program, and said that Archie is not Meghan's biological son, the world stopped. And Meghan? She panicked. Sources close to her legal team say phones were ringing before the interview even finished. Emergency meetings, damage control, calls to Netflix, Spotify, Oprah. The brand she'd spent years building was suddenly hanging by a thread. But what exactly did Tom Bauer reveal, and why now? The timeline of tension. There have always been rumors. Whispers about a possible surrogate. Clips of Meghan's baby bump folding awkwardly on live TV. A bizarre absence of medical records. A nanny who disappeared without explanation. Even a flight log that suggested something very different had happened behind the scenes. But every time the questions were raised, they were brushed off. Conspiracy theorists. Racists attacking a modern royal. Jealous haters. But if that were true, why were so many documents sealed? Why were basic facts, like the name of the doctor who delivered Archie, never confirmed. Why was the couple so protective of the child's image, even blurring him out of home videos and hiring private security firms to skin social media? Now, years later, Tom Bower has come forward to claim he has the missing pieces. According to him, the pregnancy was staged. A surrogate was paid. Legal documents were signed under secrecy clauses. And Archie, he may not even be genetically related to either Meghan or Harry. It sounds impossible, unreal, even cruel. But what if it's true? The emotional fallout. Let's take a moment here, not to accuse or ridicule, but to understand. Because this isn't just about gossip. It's about identity. Legacy. Lineage. Archie isn't just any child. He's seventh in line to the British throne. His birth was a historical moment, the first biracial child born into the monarchy, a symbol of change, a promise of progress. If what Tom Bower says is true, that promise was based on a lie. And that changes everything. Imagine what that would mean for Prince Harry, a man who's already cut ties with his family, given up his military honors, and sacrificed everything for his wife and child. Imagine discovering that the child you've defended wasn't yours, that your father's suspicion, your brother's cold distance, your grandmother's silence, were all based on knowledge you were never told. It's enough to break a man. But what if Harry did know, and kept it hidden anyway? Why now? What changed? Here's what's most intriguing. Why did Tom Bower wait until now? Why go public in such a dramatic way? Sources say he's been sitting on this information for years. That multiple legal teams tried to gag him. That he was offered book deals, and even threats, to stay quiet. But something shifted. Some say it was the sudden breakdown in Meghan and Harry's brand deals, the Netflix cancellation, the Spotify pullout, the whisper that Archwell was under investigation. Others say it was a tip-off, a staff member, a defector, someone who used to work inside Tyler Perry's mansion where Meghan and Harry stayed after leaving the UK. What we do know is this. Bower has documentation. He claims he has names, receipts, recorded phone calls, even a copy of a contract tied to a California surrogacy agency. And the Crown? According to insiders, they're preparing for war. What we'll reveal next? In the chapters that follow, we will dive into every layer of this mystery, from the redacted birth certificate to the bizarre moment when Meghan's baby bump folded live on Australian television. From the anonymous nanny who broke her NDA to a mysterious woman seen entering a private jet with a baby hours before Archie's public reveal. We'll follow the breadcrumbs to a private clinic in California, a leaked contract, a notarized letter, and a shocking discovery inside a hidden drawer of Tyler Perry's mansion. Every lie, every cover-up, every piece of the puzzle that suggests something far more elaborate and deeply disturbing than anyone could have imagined. And through it all, we'll ask the question, why? Why fake a pregnancy? Why hide the truth about a child? And who inside the palace helped cover it up until now? Because what comes next will shake the very foundation of the monarchy. And it all starts with a missing birth certificate, a panicked duchess, and a man named Tom Bower who refuses to be silenced. But just when you think you've heard it all, the real twist is only just beginning. Where is Archie's real birth certificate? And why has no one outside Meghan and Harry's inner circle ever seen it? It's a question that has haunted royal watchers, journalists, and constitutional experts since the spring of 2019. You'd think that the birth certificate of the son of Prince Harry, grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, would be a matter of public record. You'd think that a royal child's entry into the line of succession would require the same transparency as his cousins, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. But with Archie Harrison Mountbatten-Windsor, nothing was normal, nothing was traditional, and nothing was transparent. In fact, the more you dig, the more it feels like someone was working very hard to erase the truth. So let's go back to the beginning. Not the fairy tale beginning, but the strange, inconsistent, carefully controlled version of Archie's arrival that the world was spoon-fed, and the critical detail that never added up. His missing or altered birth record. The silence after the birth. May 6, 2019. The world was expecting to see the glowing Meghan Markle, holding her newborn outside the hospital steps, just like Princess Diana had done, just like Kate Middleton had done 3 times. But Meghan and Harry? They vanished. For 2 whole days. No cameras. No press briefing. No photos. Just silence. And when they finally emerged at Windsor Castle on May 8th, Meghan wearing a white trench coat, Harry smiling awkwardly, they presented Archie like a prop. No royal doctors were present. No hospital staff. No grandmother. No actual mention of the birth location. And then came the bizarre quote from Harry himself, one that raised more questions than it answered. "It's been the most amazing experience I could ever possibly imagine. How any woman does what they do is beyond comprehension." Wait, how any woman does what they do? Why would Harry speak in general terms, as if Meghan hadn't just done it? And then came the next blow. A source from inside the press pool leaked that royal correspondents were not allowed to ask any questions, not even about where the birth took place. Photographers had been told to keep their distance. No follow-ups. No backstage shots. Nothing. Compare that to the joyful chaos of George's arrival, where William stood beaming outside the Lindo wing, holding George for the world to see, doctors and nurses visible behind the glass. With Archie, it felt scripted, staged, sanitized. The birth certificate that vanished and returned. A few weeks later, pressure was building. The UK public was demanding to see Archie's birth certificate, not for scandalous reasons, but because it was tradition. Birth certificates of royal children are public records. Always have been. When the certificate was finally released, it sparked more confusion than it resolved. It listed Meghan's occupation as Princess of the United Kingdom. It listed the place of birth as the Portland Hospital, a private clinic in London. But here's the catch. The certificate was dated and signed 11 days after the birth. And even then, the document looked different from others. The formatting, the signature style, the official seal. Conspiracy? Not at first. But then something strange happened. About a month later, the birth certificate was quietly edited. That's right. The original birth certificate filed with Meghan's full name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was amended to remove her first names. It now simply read, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. A royal baby's birth certificate, altered retroactively. No explanation. Even palace aides were confused. Some claimed it was for consistency with other royal mothers. Others said Meghan personally requested the change. Meghan's team fired back, calling the palace's statement a lie. So which was it? Why the sudden change? Why the panic? And what were they trying to hide? A very different kind of birth. Let's pause for a second. If this were a normal family, maybe you'd chalk this up to privacy. But this wasn't normal. This was a member of the royal family. A child seventh in line to the throne. A birth that affects the succession of a constitutional monarchy. And when you start removing names, changing titles, hiding the place of birth, editing the record after it's been filed, well, let's just say, someone in the palace must have been sweating bullets. But here's where things start to get even stranger. Investigative journalist Martin Bashir. Yes, the same Bashir who interviewed Princess Diana in 1995, claimed that an aide to Harry had allegedly said something chilling during a private dinner in Notting Hill. You didn't hear it from me, but no one knows who really delivered that baby. Not even the doctors on duty that night. Wait, what? At first, it sounded absurd. But then Tom Bower entered the chat. Tom Bower's missing file theory. According to Tom Bower, a member of the London Health Registry, anonymously, tipped him off that Archie's hospital delivery records were missing from the Portland system. Not redacted. Not sealed. Gone. Now, understand how unusual that is. In the UK, hospital birth records are kept indefinitely, even for private facilities. Especially when a birth involves a high-profile individual like a royal. Bower's team reportedly checked 3 databases, hospital logs, NHS-linked systems, and the Crown's own archival system. Nothing. No registration under the Sussex name. No admission file for Markle or Mountbatten-Windsor. Nothing. It's as if Meghan never walked into that hospital. So if she wasn't there, then who was? The former staff member who couldn't stay silent. 6 months after Archie's birth, a former Portland hospital administrator, let's call her Denise, allegedly reached out to Bower under the condition of anonymity. She had a single sentence for him. The woman who gave birth that night was not Meghan Markle. Denise claimed that the woman registered under a false name, was quickly ushered into a sealed-off private wing, and delivered a child via surrogate birth. No press. No family. No royal physicians. She left the hospital the next day. Alone. The baby, Denise said, was taken in a separate vehicle. Not by Meghan, not by Harry, but by a third party, a handler. And here's the kicker. The woman allegedly matched the description of a previously identified